Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thanks for joining us for our Tuesday update for July the 11th. And New Zealand is in a westerly sandwich at the moment. Let me explain how that is made. It is made with high pressure up here to the north. That's the top part of the bread. The bottom piece of bread, low pressure down here in an orderly fashion going from west to east. And then in the middle, the filling. The westerly winds, and they are blowing across the country at the moment. They are the reason why we're seeing temperatures above normal across Tuesday, 2-3 degrees above normal right across New Zealand. And tomorrow's still quite mild, except for the south down here, because this southerly portion will arrive, and so your Wednesday will be below average. But for many other places with the westerlies, it will still be warmer than it should be for this time of the year. And we've got a couple of weeks worth, really, of these coming through. Not every single day will it be a westerly. We've got some days with northerlies and southerlies in there, but overall, the westerlies are dominating. That means it may feel like spring or autumn for some of you, even though we're right in the depths of winter. But we are still getting these southerlies like the one we've got this week, and then we've got another one coming in next week. So here's another sign that the westerlies are starting to dominate. The rainfall map, this is for the next 3 days ahead, looks more like it should do. We've got most of the rain down here in our rainforest, Fiordland. Not a huge amount, but maybe 50 or 60 millimetres there. And then another 20 or 30 further up the west coast. For the North Island, the shading you're seeing there at the very start of the scale, just a few showers. And these eastern areas are leaning the driest. So that is more of a sign of where we normally would be. That eastern New Zealand and the top of the country is fairly dry and the west is wet. But one pattern we're going to be seeing a fair bit over the next couple of weeks, despite this big westerly drive, plenty of showers. So even though the rainfall totals may start to drop over the coming weeks, it's still going to be a bit wet each day. So it may take a few more weeks before you really notice perhaps a bit of a shift in the atmosphere. We've been waiting for El Nino to show up in our atmosphere. It's been showing up in the sea surface conditions. Was always expected to be announced sometime around August or spring. That is still the case. And it's good to see the weather pattern now showing some signs of El Nino. Not that we really wish for El Nino, but a bit of a balancing act with New Zealand's very wet start to this year would be welcome. So we've got a little bit of snow coming through over the next couple of days. Most of this coming through on Wednesday, Thursday, not as much as last week, and mostly in the mountains and ranges. Had a bit of a laugh on Twitter yesterday with people on the west coast thinking that this meant snow right up to the waterfront. It does look like that, but it's basically because there are mountains and ranges right up against the coastline in some of these areas, and it's a zoomed out map. But if you're a couple of 100 metres above sea level, then yes, you might get some snow or sleet. But the pale blue you see mostly on this map here towards most of those main centres at the very bottom of the scale. So it doesn't look like much if you do get some. So here is the forecast. Here we are on Wednesday. This is the 24-hour map. So usually we just show you the snapshot at lunchtime in New Zealand, but this is for showing you 24 hours worth of rain. A lot of blue in there, the pale blue, but that's actually just showing you showers. So it's not necessarily a huge amount of rain. It might only be 1 to 5 millimetres across the day. Most of the wet weather down in that southwestern corner and the western side of Tasmania. Otherwise, most places are fairly dry, especially in Australia and along these northern and eastern areas. It won't be very wet. On Thursday, back to the normal maps now. This just shows you the lunchtime snapshot on where the showery weather will be. And you can see it's up the western side and it tapers off the further north you go. So Waikato, Auckland, Northland, a lot of complaints from farmers who have to work in the muddy conditions at the moment. So we've got empathy for you. Now, this is a better forecast, a bit windier, a bit warmer, but you've still got the showers in there. So if you can sort of mentally block out the showers, because they're not going to accumulate to the same totals we've been seeing. So there is some good news. So try and see the positive spin I'm putting in there. Dry for eastern areas as well. So there's a little bit of good news for you. Now by Friday, showers continue along the western side, but they're not very much. Talking about 1 or 2 showers coming in and the totals won't be that great. So that is better news, even though it may not feel like it's helping to drain the ground out, but gradually, if it keeps up at this rate, it will. Now, not everybody hates the rain. We got an email yesterday saying, why do you always say that it's a negative thing? I agree. I actually quite like the rain as well myself. But, livestock and farmers and growers having to work out in it, that's the reason why we talk about it in a negative term sometimes, because we've had too much of a good thing this year if you're out there trying to run a small business and the weather's part of it. Now, as we go towards Saturday, much drier across the country. Good news with the long weekend. Friday's not too bad. Saturday gets even better. And we get to Sunday and it's still pretty much the same. Still seeing a few showers up the western side of the country. So that's why you look at the forecast, you'll see that rain icon, the rain symbol, and you might sigh out loud going, ugh, more rain. But when you actually drill down to look at the rainfall totals, it's not quite that big. So Sunday, pretty dry across the country, a little bit cold, a little bit windy in places like Wellington with that southerly. And on Monday, the southerly properly comes in, but we're back to work by then. So southerlies on Monday, another cold snap. Won't be too long lasting because the next high just there and more windy westerlies behind that. That's all from me for today. Apologies, we don't have our usual videos. We've got Sean away, we've got staff away, so we don't quite have our normal editing crew. So it's a little bit shorter and sharper than usual. Should be back to normal next week though. That's all from me for today. We'll see you again on Wednesday.